Mm-hmm. So, hey everyone, welcome to Filmocracy Talks, a bi-weekly open forum where we discuss topics filmmakers care about. I'm Paul Jun, CEO of Filmocracy, and I'm joined by Jose Escorcia, a very talented filmmaker and producer for the show. A little bit about how this will work. I'll kick it off with Jose, and as the discussion progresses, you can write in the chat box, ask and vote on questions, or raise your hand, at which point I'll make you a co-presenter and the open forum can begin. But we've kind of skipped that step and just made everyone a co-presenter. So we'll talk until we run out of breath and then have a brief 20-minute intermission during which we can all network with each other some more, go to the bathroom, things like that. And then we'll come back and share what we've discussed. Before we begin, with all the protests happening with the Black Lives Matter movement, Jose wanted to point out some organizations that you can all look into to learn more and show support.
As you know, the Black Lives Matter movement is bigger than ever before, and now more than ever, we all need to gather together as human beings and fight for a change. If you're curious to know how you can help, here are some options. 8can'twait.org details how we can reduce police violence by 72% with some simple changes. There, you can find a link to Campaign Zero where you can donate for the cause. Your contribution will go a long way. If you're interested in learning more about this movement and want to contribute, whether it be financially or just by learning more about the Black Lives Matter movement, please visit blacklivesmatter.carrd.co. Link will be in the description and in the chat, as well as being linked to a wide variety of petitions for the cause and links to donate. And if you don't have any money to donate, it's alright, especially in the climate that we are in now. There are options to donate without having to pay a dime. Clicking on the donate link will direct you to YouTube videos that revolve around the Black Lives Matter movement and topics revolving racial inequality. The videos will have ad space, and the revenue made from watching the videos will directly support the Black Lives Matter movement. Also, follow us on our social media pages if you're looking for a list of masterful film works that center around African American artists, culture, history, and stories. Please check out our handpicked films on our Instagram or our blog on filmocracy.com. Links in the description and in the chat. Everyone is doing their part for a better future. Join us. Join the movement. Let's make a change together.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Jose. Obviously, links to those organizations are in the side chat. And now back to the event. Today, we're going to be talking about sales and distribution, which is mostly my background. So a little bit about me. I used to work for a company called QED International, which became Covert Media. They were a sales and production company. And they did films like District 9 and Fury with Brad Pitt, Dirty Grandpa, this sort of $10 to $50 million independently financed film. And that has largely gone away. There's a lot of reasons that we can dive into about that, but why don't we just kick it off by, I'll ask you, Jose, what are some questions you have about getting your film distributed?
Yeah, of course. So, even before we got to know each other a little better, I saw the Kickstarter page and all that stuff, and you do mention that you worked in tandem with distribution. I didn't know to what extent, so I was like, but you always said that you saw so many great ideas happening and being pitched, but a lot of the time the companies would outright deny them, which is the sad truth of the system right now. Like, it kind of sucks to know that, your masterpiece that you've been busting your ass off to finish is probably not going to see the light of day. So with that being said, I do understand a little bit of the distribution, like how this is mainly for independent films, not high big budget films work, but for independent films, in order to kind of see the light of day or being produced, distribution companies essentially send sales agents to like those A-tier like film festivals. So festivals like Cannes, TIFF, San Sebastian, Venice, and the Berlin Film Festival. And they kind of send these sales agents to essentially look for potential movies that they can buy and acquire and then distribute them onto the market. And with that being said, I wanted to ask you, Paul, how many times did you, it doesn't have to be an exact number, but how many times did you personally have to deal with like deciding whether or not a movie was gonna get bought or not?
Oh my God, every day. I
Oh,
mean, for the
you
most
out to
part,
festivals as well?
yeah, yeah. I mean, mostly we would stick to the major ones, which was TIFF, Cannes, Berlin, and AFM, which is in Santa Monica.
Yeah,
Um,
the AFM mostly centers around like action piece films, right? Like spectacles.
no, not really. It just gets some sort of weird reputation that way. That like one
Okay.
person sold an action movie there, and like suddenly
Yeah.
people think that's the thing. But that AFM is different from other festivals because it's not a festival; it's a market only.
Exactly. It's the
So
American film market. So if you guys don't know, it's essentially where all these sales agents kind of like go there in a, and tell me if I'm wrong. From what I understand, it's kind of like a giant meeting where people just shop and sell their films, and it's mainly for that. It's not for people's viewing pleasure. It's strictly business.
markets are pretty much the same for all of the festivals. And basically, like the sales agents will have different offices all around like the festival area, whether that's like downtown or wherever it is. They'll get like a hotel room and change it into an office. And then all of the distributors will come by and they'll like have meetings scheduled with you and they'll come to your office if you have like 30 minutes and you'll basically pitch them on what you have as a sales agent to sell to them in their territory. So let's say I was sitting in my office and you come in and you're a distributor for Mexico and you say, what do you have for Mexico? And then I'll say, well, I have this action movie with Dolph Lundgren. It's $10 million. I'll send you the script if you're interested. And I have this romance with Cara Delevingne. It's $5 million. So if you want those movies in Mexico, then the MG, which is a minimum guarantee of how much we're asking for, will be, let's say, $40,000. So you would have to pay me $40,000, and then I will give you the film in Mexico. This is a very simplified way of thinking of it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of terminology that when it comes to like sales agents, like what you said, a minimum guarantee. Can I throw some terms and maybe you can give us kind of an explanation of what that is?
Yeah.
All right, so can you explain to us what soft money is?
Soft money is it's basically tax credits. So when you're like making a budget for a film, you consider soft money as part of your budget if you like shoot in Georgia, for example, and you're like, okay, Georgia's going to give me 40% back as a tax rebate. So we count that as our money that we can use to spend because we're going to get it back. So certain states have better tax credits than others, and so soft money is more important in those states.
Yeah, and a big job for these sales agents is also looking for deals for international market, right? Because dealing with international market is completely different than dealing with like just specifically like American market. Each country has to deal with their own distribution rights. Did you have to deal with that yourself?
Totally. Like you would focus mostly on international before you focus on domestic. And basically what the goal was is when you're looking at the budget for something that you're trying to make, something you're trying to produce, you would try to do pre-sales for the entire budget of the film internationally so that when you come to the domestic distributors, you can be like, I've already got $20 million in pre-sales on the international market, and that covers the budget. And then anything that you get from them is bonus, domestic.
Got you. And these pre-sales, that's for every country individually, right? Not as a whole.
Well, certain countries will be grouped together. And
okay. Essentially, the way that I look at it is like it's like a hole that you just keep shoveling money into, but all that is equal to all the countries put together.
Yes, I mean, so when you're making these things called estimates, so let's say I have a film, and I want to make it, a $30 million Nicolas Cage movie and I want to build this budget. So then I'm going to say I'm going to get $1 million from Japan, $2 million from the UK, $3 million from Germany, and then you sort of try to add up to $30 million. Inevitably, you're never going to make every single sale in every single territory. Some countries don't like Nicolas Cage. I don't know which countries those are, but
I was going to say a $30 million budget Nicolas Cage movie sounds kind of 90s to me.
Nicolas Cage has actually carved himself out as like a guaranteed floor raiser for a film. So you can
really?
pretty easily, like if you have an action script with Nicolas Cage, you can almost guarantee like $3 million in pre-sales just because of him. Which is not, you can't, yeah, he has some power, but only on the low end. People don't expect him to be able to headline a big movie.
The last movie that I can say where I was like, wow, Nicolas Cage like outdid himself was Joe. I don't know if you've seen that movie. It was made by Adam Goldberg, I think, the guy who did he's doing the new Halloween movies now, but that movie is really good. Super underrated movie. I highly recommend it. It's the last movie I can say where Nicolas Cage, outside of Mandy and that new Lovecraftian movie that just came out, this was the one where I was like, that was a performance. That wasn't Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage. That was a performance, and I highly recommend it. So to you viewers, if you guys want to check out a really good Nicolas Cage movie that wasn't made in the 90s, check out Joe. It's so good.
Nice plug there for Joe.
Yeah, there you go. So back to what we were talking about with the sales agents at these markets. When it comes to you looking for a film that your company might be interested in, because you're essentially an outside hire, right? You're not outright working for the distribution company. You're kind of hired to work with them. And you're at these festivals, regardless of what it is. Do you follow the 4-quadrant system, like in terms of like making a decision whether or not this film should be bought or not?
I don't know what the 4-quadrant system is, but when we're trying to pick up films to take on for sales, and even like picking up projects to take on to produce, it's very like we run numbers and we try to project, and we'll like make these really fancy spreadsheets called waterfalls, and inevitably like you can't know if it's going to succeed or not. And all of this, in my opinion, is a bunch of nonsense. And most of the time it's just like by the gut of the CEO.
Got you. Because like just to explain what a 4-quadrant system is, it's like essentially it's a film, and you categorize it depending on what quadrant it fits in. So the first quadrant would be, well, first it's split up for male and female, and the first quadrant would be 15 to 25. Does this movie appeal for the ages of 15 to 25 for both male and female? So that's 2 quadrants. The other 2 are male and female, 25 to 50. And essentially, you're supposed to break down what this movie's what this movie has going for itself. So what it's highlighted. Is this an action movie for just males ages 15 to 25? It's very simplified and almost kind of like it's so dumbed down that I think it's so old school. Do you think that a lot of these people that purchases movies actually look at films in that eye and go, well, this is a 4-quadrant film. It's for everybody. Usually it's a kid's film. Pixar movies tend to be a 4-quadrant film. It's for everybody because everyone goes to watch it. Or how you said, a lot of these independent films that in your range, like District 9, are more of a 1-quadrant film where it's like a male-centric 15 to 25 age. As primitive as that sounds, it's true that that's how a lot of agents see stuff, I think.
I have never experienced anybody using this sort of analysis to determine whether they would sell or buy a movie. Most of the time what they do is like, what movie is it like? Is it like this movie that was made 3 years ago with a similar cast, similar budget, and then we can expect similar results, which obviously is
Trend.
also dumb, but you know,
Yeah.
there's not really much you can, because there's so many different pieces of a film, and like just setting up the pieces right doesn't mean the recipe is going to come out as amazing as a comp.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think it's awesome that I found to find out that you were a big part of District 9, because that's like one of my top all-time favorite sci-fi films.
Well, that was like that was slightly before I joined the company. So the company
okay,
did
got it.
District 9, but then I joined a little bit after that.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned District 9 because not sure if you're familiar. The Neil Blomkamp, the director of District 9, he kind of went off and did his own thing for a little bit. Hasn't come out with anything since Chappie, which wasn't really that great.
And he was doing something studios, something
Rock or not Oats. Studios.
Yeah.
So very weird, like almost experimental thing that he was doing. Short films to the highest degree in quality, to be honest. Like I'm like, how the hell did he get these budgets? But it kind of like disappeared over the years. Like I haven't seen anything made from that studio for a year now. They came out strong, but they haven't done anything. But I was trying to understand what he was trying to gain from that, doing that specifically. And essentially the studio was kind of earning its wages by selling its assets that they use in the short films that they made to like Steam groups, or essentially making a marketplace on Steam. I think that's very interesting. But back to the I just find it really interesting that you said that Neil Blomkamp was dealing with the company that you worked with. I wanted to continue with the Quadrant thing. So, like I said, that's a very old school way of thinking. I personally have heard it before, but I was like, no way can it be this like dumbed down in terms of like figuring out if a movie's like worth getting or not. And I had right here, I found an article on going into the story, and writer Scott Myers said that basically the new form of the four quadrant system has changed, and now movie studios, specifically like these big budget film studios like Warner Brothers, Paramount, etc., are more looking at spectacle, which is the Michael Bay-isms, explosions, in your face, top-notch CGI, the international appeal, so bringing people from all over the world to be part of a movie. China, of course, is a big part of that, and it has been kind of like in the forefront like in the recent years of Hollywood movies coming out. Franchise films, so your Marvel movies, and nostalgia factor. And when you were dealing with that kind of stuff, did you have to look into that more? Does that sound more of like the ballpark of what you were looking into when you were trying to purchase a film?
Yeah, that hit the nail on the head. Back when I was in the industry, this was like mid 2010s. So this was like the shift of, TV really becoming, like more important almost than films. And you were starting to see like big movie stars choose TV projects over film projects, and people wouldn't go to the theater anymore because of X, Y, and Z. And so to get them to come to the theater, what does the movie have to be? And that's what Disney sort of capitalized on over the past 10, 15 years, where everyone else kind of failed. And the company that I worked at, I would say, also didn't go along with the same analysis that writer Scott just gave. A lot of independent companies, the people that make independent film companies are very like cinephile type people, so they want to make original, like art worthy, Oscar worthy type content, and like making Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is not really what you're interested in. So
that's an Oscar nominated or Oscar winning film, though.
That's true. But
I think we should say like, I don't know, what's a Trolls World Tour? There you go.
Tear out my soul.
It is kind of unfortunate that that's the new way of thinking, and it kind of splits the market and the film industry in almost two, where the independent films focus more on the art of the film, the art of making a film, while the big system is kind of focusing on just like vomit in your face.
Jay, why don't you turn your camera on? Let's talk about that. Art versus
That's a
entertainment.
good way to say it, Jay. Art versus entertainment. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, it feels like coming from the filmmaking side of things that the industry has gone a certain way, and how is it? It seems it's impossible to create art while being sustainable. So, I mean, the push has been towards a certain kind of, tried and true and proven content and less risk. So I wonder if there's anything in the distribution space that can encourage both, and not just champion one kind of one type of film, because in the end I think both are meaningful, have a place in our culture, whether it's art or it's entertainment. But for sure, right now, it feels like, auteurs who are trying to follow in the footsteps of those before and be original and explore the medium, just don't. It's hard to get a chance and get going, and everything.
This is the problem when you start to get very like corporatized and financialized. So you start getting all these like business people and MBAs joining an industry and focusing on, okay, maximum revenue, maximum profit, cut the fat. What can we do to spam money and not lose any money, right? So then they figured out, okay, people will come to watch dinosaurs, people will come to watch superheroes, but if we're trying to make a movie like Get Out, for example, where the cast is not really well known, it's not known IP, it's original, so the extra cost then of marketing something like that, that's an extra expense that they don't want to take a risk on. So it's all because, and this is happening across every industry now, you have just business people, sort of like private equity, sticking their nose into a space that was for a long time controlled by studio heads that went by their gut feelings and made decisions like putting Back to the Future in theaters. That's not something that would ever get put in a theater today. So it's really hard. And at the same time, and this is what I was talking to before about how the industry has changed, is there's just so much content. How many people now, I mean, you both included, Jay and Jose, are filmmakers today. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you probably aren't filmmakers. It just is too cost prohibitive. Yeah. So now we have in the world at the same time, filmmakers like you all over the world, all making content, all of them with original ideas, all of them now just hammering sales agents with their scripts and projects. And now the sales agents are like, oh my God, I can't even. I get a script in the mail, I throw it in the trash because I don't have time to read a random script. And then they just start relying on the agencies like CAA, WME, to basically tell them which projects are worth reading.
Yeah, for sure.
To kind of cut time.
I mean, that raises a philosophical question of who gets to choose, right? When you have so much content, and who gets to be the tastemakers, the gatekeepers, and yeah, it's inherently it's unfair because someone has to decide. There's a middleman right now in the system that controls what gets distributed. So it's a tough. I think we're in a growing stage right now. Industry. I know the music industry has been always ahead a bit.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Reading reading an article on how, and Phil talked about this too, about incorporating blockchain technologies to change how independent artists can get paid without a middleman. So, I'm fairly, I'm not as well read as you guys on distribution, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the future direction.
Phil has a question here. Let's see if I can, if you guys have any input on this. At what point does the general public stop being naturally drawn to familiarity because it's comfortable, safe, and begin their exploration into unfamiliar art, one-off art pieces, films that probably don't have the chance at becoming a full-on IP/universe?
I think people want to see original content. The fear is that you're going to watch it and it's crap and you just wasted your time. Time is one of those things that, like, when you commit to watching a movie that's 2 hours and then watching that movie, who knows how many hours that takes. So when Jay makes a film and I see it on some streaming platform and maybe it's a cool image, but like, what's really telling me to go watch it if Jay hasn't done any marketing? Like, there's just too much.
A serious question: why? Why do I have to watch this?
Yeah, you have to prove it almost, because there's too many options. Not just watching movies. There's social media. There's coronavirus news. There's tons of entertainment everywhere, and watching a movie is just one more thing now.
It's sad to say, when you spend more time scrolling with the thousands of options on Netflix or whatever other streaming platform you have, and all you tell yourself is, there's nothing to watch. No, clearly there's something to watch. You have thousands and upon thousands of stuff to watch, but nothing's grabbing your attention. It's the best way to put it. And it's kind of sad, because back then, HBO showed the same damn 8 movies all the time, but you were like, holy crap, those are options right there. You got options, and now you're like, these options aren't enough. Now I need quality.
I mean, Paul, you kind of hit on the barrier to entry to be a filmmaker these days is a lot lower. Used to be just getting your film processed, being an actual filmmaker, not a video maker, which most of us are these days. Was quite a different process. And I think, like you said, we do have to prove ourselves to a certain degree, and not throw around that role so lightly.
For sure. It's also a little scary to say that a lot of it revolves around luck. Complete luck, Sometimes, like Paul said, you had this magnum opus of a movie to show, and Paul just threw it in the trash. He got the script and threw it in the trash. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality of things, where it's like, you really, really have something good and you want your voice to be heard, but it's all on luck whether or not that voice will be even heard or not.
It's also incredibly relationship based in Hollywood, and you would be just shocked at how some things get decided. Like, if you know somebody, it's like green light all the way to the finish line. And if you don't, it's luck.
Yeah. It sucks. I have a question for you, Paul, and I don't know if you're actually allowed to tell us, but has there been any film project that you specifically tried your best to get bought, and then your higher ups just said no way in hell, and the film eventually did come out from another distribution company, and you told yourself, you guys should have just listened to me? I don't know why you didn't do it.
That's happened a few times, but one really, really stark example is not a movie, it was a TV show. So I got promoted at my job, and I was trying to start some new initiatives of trying to bring in more projects and do some things that we don't normally do. I was looking at some Korean variety shows to see if any of them could be sold as a format to a network here. And My dad actually told me about this show. He's like, this show is really popular right now. It's called The Masked Singer. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it. So I started watching some episodes, and it's really interesting. I don't know if you've watched it. It's on Fox now. But
Okay.
basically, people wear costumes, like really wacky costumes, where you can't tell who's inside, and they sing.
Okay.
And everybody in the show is like either a former famous singer or like an athlete or celebrity that you didn't know could sing. And so the whole time you're watching these people sing and like compete with each other, and you don't know who's inside, and you're like, what? Who is this person? I know that voice, but they're too tall and it doesn't sound exactly like that. But it's really compelling, and I met.
So
with,
it's a reality TV, so kind of like America's Got Talent kind of thing.
yes, but it was a singing competition, so more like
Oh,
The Voice, I would say.
and it was syndicated, I'm guessing.
Now, so
Oh, okay.
I met with the Korean network office in LA, and we were talking to them, and they're like, yeah, you can have a shopping agreement, which is basically giving permission to go and like try to sell it to networks for 150 grand. And
Okay.
my direct boss and I were like, yeah, this is like, we should try to do this. We can flip this pretty easily. And then I don't want to talk bad about anyone, but the decision was made to not
good.
pursue this. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
it's just $150,000. We spend millions looking at scripts all the time. So then,
Yeah.
like, obviously, a year or so passes, and then I hear that Fox picked up The Masked Singer, and I'm like, man, that's like easy millions right there. Like, you flip it to Fox. Fox produces everything. We're just listed as a producer, and like, hands clean. We
And I'm
make.
guessing the higher up ignore it, right?
Like, we weren't a TV company, so it was kind of okay to justify it that way, but like I was pretty adamant, like, this is gonna work.
I have a somewhat of a story that kind of falls into that thing. So you were mentioning Korean broadcasting channels. I have a personal friend of mine works for PBS, the Korean broadcasting station here in Koreatown. He's originally from South Korea, and he goes up to me one day and he tells me, "Hey Jose, like I need you to help me on some stuff real quick." And this caught me completely off guard, more because of the cultural differences. He tells me that their broadcasting station has bought the rights to Telemundo soap opera in Spanish, and that he has to subtitle it for Korean people to read. And it's going to be this big show that apparently is airing right now on Telemundo. And I said, the cultural difference is so like different that I would not expect like a Korean audience to kind of understand it. And you're talking to somebody that grew up watching their parents watching these novellas, and it's very culturally for that audience, the Hispanic audience. And knowing that this Korean company like was interested and I guess eventually did buy the rights to show this in Korea, I find that very interesting. Where it's like, I wonder what in their heads, what attracted them to this IP, what made them want to broadcast it to the Korean people over there, especially because I know Korean soap operas is a big thing. I know that for sure. So the fact that they want something that's culturally different, but revolves around the same thing, soap operas, it's a really, really interesting thing that's going on with that.
I mean, maybe they wanted to test it to do like a Korean remake.
Got you. Yeah, but he was telling me, like I said, he was like, yeah, we're going to broadcast this on our channel. And I was like, wow, I never really would have guessed that would be a thing, where it's a Spanish show translated to Korean via subtitles. I think that's a really cool thing to do, that Korea's like trying to like give that cultural diversity a try. It's really cool.
We're starting to see this more and more as the international market continues to grow. Like it used to be that America was providing all of the entertainment for everyone. Like every other countries had shows and stuff that they were producing, but they were always such low budget and like such low production value that they weren't really comparable. And so we were able to export culturally a lot of our movies and television shows very easily. That's why like people who grew up in Poland know so many American shows, because that's just it's subtitled and or dubbed and played in their countries. But now we're starting to see we are not the only producer of content, high quality content anymore. And so you're seeing like, for example, Australian MasterChef is much better than American MasterChef. And so people just prefer to watch Australian MasterChef now. Like, why do I have to watch American MasterChef? And we're seeing like in the markets, the demand for American content has gone down significantly because people would rather A, they have more content to choose from their own countries, and B, now they are buying stuff from other countries that aren't the US. So you have Germans buying Japanese content, Koreans buying Mexican shows, you know, Polish people buying Brazilian content. Like everybody is now like intermingling content, and American content is having a smaller and smaller piece of the pie. And this also is weighing in on why it's so hard to finance independent movies, because you have a lot of times better independent movies being made internationally. And there's other reasons for that, because a lot of countries, most countries support independent filmmakers. Their governments have like Ministry of Film, and you make movies because you get financed by the government, not because you have to go do a Kickstarter and try to like build a budget yourself.
Yeah, so I've noticed that. I've had working on my own personal short films. I've noticed that I'll ask like a professor when I was in school or other people I know that got their films funded. When I find out that their budgets are like $30,000 for like a 15-minute short film, and I'm like, how the hell are you doing that? And they literally say that they just go to the like their government from the country they come from, and for the most part their country does back them up, you know, to make their piece, depending on what it's about. But for the most part, it's always worked on their favor, where they like their government is like a big advocate for independent artists to show off their work, and they give them grants to, you know, make their project, which I think is really cool. As for me, you know, the best I got is take out a loan or Kickstarter. So it's really interesting to see that other countries are kind of like taking the forefront and standing up for independent filmmakers.
Yeah, and because of that, I feel like international content, independent content internationally is better, because when you get a grant from the government, you're free to just make your film exactly how you want to make it. They don't care. But here, you're kind of making your film to get some sort of commercial deal done, as maybe like it's very rarely because you want to like send a message. You know, it's because you have to create something that's potentially a success, could potentially be bought by somebody, could potentially be made into a bigger project. So,
and it's not to say though, because as like I went to film school, the first thing that teachers usually dig in your head is that your film, most likely your short film, your independent short film, most likely won't go anywhere farther than being seen by a couple hundred people. It's a miracle if someone decides to buy the idea. They give you a laundry list of reasons of why you're just making the film for the art and not for like the financial reasons, which is completely reasonable. But it kind of like is a little hypocritical, because like you said, here in America they expect that you making this project will be a forefront to a future financial endeavor that will benefit them. So it's like, you're telling me my short film isn't going to do shit, but then you expect me to have a film that will make money? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's such a tough space. If you are an independent filmmaker, I really applaud you for trying to do this, because it's got to be the most like like you just get worn down.
Trust me, if it wasn't for for me specifically, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I've been very blessed to actually know people that, because you know how they say Hollywood, LA, you're gonna meet a lot of fake people. You know, everyone here is either trying to get to know you to benefit something off of you, or vice versa, whether you want to admit it or not. And I feel like I've been very blessed to have like a solid group of people that were always there to help make a film with me. So I feel very lucky, but I've heard some horror stories, and I've had my moments too where it just everything's a damn business here, and it's unfortunate, but it's the reality of things. You can't just go outside. I can tell you right now, if I get a camera that's noticeably big and I have a tripod and I decide to go outside my house here in Burbank, give me 25 minutes, a cop will ask me for a permit. So it's unfortunate, but it's the reality of things, to be honest.
Yeah, tinsel top. Phil has a question.
Yeah. So you guys were talking about like the independent filmmakers and how they can possibly make a film for a certain budget, but also the people that fund these independent films, they have to make their money back too, right? So I have a friend who just signed his first big deal. It's a $2 or $3 million film or something. Bodan Turok, you met him at the last event. He got signed to make his film Mother with a company in Toronto, and they're funding it, and he's going to go film it and everything. And what I'm wondering is, these films that are so small compared to the blockbusters, first of all, the guys that put the money in to make this film, the production company or whatever, how are they making their money back? Who possibly is buying this? Where is it going, right? Like, are they taking that film and saying, okay, we're gonna now we have a film, we're gonna shop it around and say, hey, Netflix, how much are you willing to give us for this? Or the TV networks, maybe a cable channel will pay us for this. How many outlets are there for these guys? And, you know, aside from the typical, yeah, they didn't make a penny back, what are the situations where they did make a penny back?
No, you'll find that internationally there's a lot of opportunity. Like this Mother film could be very well received in like Czech Republic or in Korea, Taiwan. Like it doesn't, you can make money in different places, and over time you have like $100,000 deal here, $50,000 deal here, and then once you have enough leverage, then maybe Netflix will come and take up the rest of the pieces. So it is incredibly hard though. So your friend Bodan, who is making a $3 million film, at the very least, because it's a $3 million film, you have leverage because of that, which is really shitty. Like, because you're spending all this money, your film must at least be a certain quality. This is the sort of logic that we operate under. So if somebody else made a film that was like $50,000 but was almost the same quality as this $3 million film, you would still pick the $3 million film because you could say this was a $3 million film, which is really messed up, I know. Luyako has better Wi-Fi now, and I think you should turn your camera on, Luyako, and give us some perspective from China, because the Chinese film industry is so interesting and there's so much happening there, and I can't imagine what's happening right now with the coronavirus, but very interesting stuff happening there. American film changed a lot because of China, basically like trying to meet certain criteria so the Chinese government will fit you into their quota. I wrote an article about this of like, you can't have ghosts, you can't have like the wrong religion, you can't gay people in movies. So Luyako, if you can turn your camera on, we would love to chat with you. But if not, that's okay too.
Yeah, while we wait, while she tries to figure that out, hopefully we can, because that would be a really interesting conversation to have. I wanted to delve deep a little bit about your festival experiences, especially since you had to go to these top tier Cannes, TIFF, San Sebastian, which not a lot of people like know that that's a like A tier um, film festival. Um, I know for sure that they treat the sales agents very graciously because a lot of the budget, some of the budget goes towards accommodations for the sales agent. But what was your overall experience there? I've heard personally from other sales agents that they see some of the craziest shit going on, especially when it comes to kind of like keeping the actors for certain films like happy. A good example was like Expendables 3, when Expendables 3 was releasing. In order to have Sylvester Stallone happy with the rest of the crew, they had this big ordeal of rolling all the actors into the festival via tanks.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So maybe you could tell some horror stories or something cool about these festivals, especially for like filmmakers like me and Jay. Hopefully that's a future thing that we'll have to deal with too, and maybe getting a little inside knowledge about it would be very helpful.
Yeah. So this is probably going to be more and more rare that crazy stories like that happen because, like, back in the day, there was so much money flying around. Like back in DVD's heyday, there was just so much money that people didn't know what to do with it. So they would just pay for things like that. They would throw extravagant parties. They would do like crazy exhibitions. Like all of their office build outs would just be like massive. And every year, every successive year since streaming sort of took over, smaller, fewer parties, limits on drinks at parties, like the belt was tightening every single year. So in terms of like interesting stories, like that tank one is definitely something interesting. There was another one where one of the years I was there was like a bunch of SWAT, like Europol looking people like stationed in different places. We didn't know. Like it could have been for some crazy publicity stunt for a movie that was going to try to sell, but
I'm sure if this is, I forget what festival it is, but I've heard about these two ladies, the Leopard Women or the Cheetah Girls, I think it was, and it's like two women that have been going to the same festival. I don't know, I forgot which one it was, but they are always at the festival every year for, and I know it's one of the festivals that I mentioned, and they always have leopard print outfits on, and they're kind of like known, but no one knows why, what they do, what's the purpose of them being there. But it's these two women, I think it's a mother and daughter, who are always at these events in leopard print, and no one understands. It's almost like they're an anomaly. Have you ever run into the leopard women?
I've run into other women dressed in leopard print that are there for different reasons. But
yeah, I remember I heard them. The ones I'm talking about had a reputation of just like they attend the event. They're just normal people, but they always wear the same outfit, and like apparently everyone knows who they are, but no one knows who they are at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, Cannes is such a spectacle in itself. Like it's just packed with people, like trying to see people walk down the red carpet, and you can see them from like 40 feet away. So what's even the point?
Cannes the red stairs, right?
Yeah.
Got you. Yeah. So you got to be there at least. Any more horror stories, by the way, or any crazy?
No, I mean, I would just say like this job that I had of being like a sales agent and like going to festivals and markets was probably one of the best jobs you can have at my age at the time, because basically what you were doing is going to these exotic locations and hanging out with your friends for a week and spending all of your company's money. That's basically what you're doing, because all the distributors, you become friends with them and you're seeing them at every festival, the same people. You say, how are you doing? How are your kids? How's your family? And then let's go drink at night. And then maybe if you have a project, they're going to buy it. And they're almost sometimes not even going to care what the project is. You just have this relationship and they're like, yeah, we'll take it.
Would you just hand them a press kit and be like, here you
go? No, I mean, it's more work than that. But, there's something. Okay. Leo says,
oh, sure, go ahead.
Feature films have gotten a lot more scrutiny than short films, but that's not to say they'd be checked if they had been filmed in China and need to be shown outside the country. That's to see what type of content the particular film has in it. Okay. So, I imagine it's crazy too. Like, we don't really know what's happening there because Chinese films haven't really been exported very well, in my opinion. Like, Korean film has done an excellent job of being exported. Japanese film used to be very well and has really gone away. And Chinese film, they're trying. Have you heard of Wolf Warrior? Wolf Warrior 2?
Of course. Wolf Warrior 2 is with Atkins, right?
Sorry?
That stars Scott Adkins. I think it's like one of the most like the they made like a huge profit off that movie, and it had like their Robert Downey Jr. was the main actor. It's like a not a kung fu movie. It's just like an action.
Yeah.
Piece.
Yeah, but it's also a bit patriotic and paints China in a favorable light, and so there was some government push behind it also.
Got you.
But yeah, I think we've been talking for.
Frank Grillo. I'm sorry.
Frank Grillo. Oh my God, his agent tries so hard to push him into things. He's not a lead. He's not a lead.
He was
actor.
in Skyline with Iko Iwis from Raid Redemption. He was in a lot of Asian-based films, and so it was kind of cool that they tried to do that with him. But I agree, he's not a leading type. He's really good at a supporting character. Great in the Captain America movies. Great in Warrior. He was great in his TV show Kingdom. But you're right, he's not really like the leading type.
He doesn't have that just like the charm. I don't find him to be very charming.
Really? I actually thought that for some of the stuff that he's in, he's pretty charming. Like I said, though, he for sure I wouldn't put him in like a $50 million above budget. He I think he knows his I think he knows where he works, and it's more at the lower tier films, the low budget films, like Skyline, the Purge movies, all those kind of smaller scale films, and it's working for him so far. I think he was in that one Netflix movie. It's the only movie I know that he was in where they really tried to push him, and it was Wheelman. Do you remember that movie?
No.
Yeah, no one does because it didn't do anything. But I remember that was the movie that they tried to push Frank Grillo. It's like, he's the new action star, and then the movie was kind of trash.
So yeah, let's bring it back to distribution, because we've been talking a lot about sales, but I think people here are struggling a lot with distribution, and I'm sure you have sort of tried to find different avenues for yourself, Jose, so it'd be interesting to hear how your experience has been. From nowhere, from not knowing anything at all about distribution, and how you came to know what you do now.
Of course. So, me personally, it's this like I said again. This is mainly for independent filmmakers and their projects. It's very tricky because, like you were basically saying, it's a lot of luck to be noticed by these distribution companies. especially when it comes to short films. It's very uncommon for a distribution company to be like, "Hey, like, let's use what you have, and we'll pay for it so a mass audience can see it." It's very uncommon for it to happen. So for me, what I've noticed is there's two ways, not only, but these are the two ways that I would approach it. Is one, and let me know if I'm going down the right path of what you were saying. But one, treat your short film as almost like a what is it called, a template, or something that can be expanded upon once it's made feature length. It's more of the ideas being presented than the whole film itself. Of course, worry about telling your story, worrying about making this short film cohesive, but also have some room that you can expand upon. After that, it's hoping that you get into film festivals. I think film festivals are very important to get traction from people like what Paul used to do, sales agents and so on, that are interested in the idea and might want to work and collaborate with you to make this project into a feature-length project. But from there, that's mainly kind of what I've understand from it. It's kind of like you're hoping that the right eyes see your project and hoping that either they want to buy the idea or they want to collaborate with you to expand the idea and make it bigger, and then hook you up with a distribution company that will essentially make the film. For feature-length independent films, this is more of just pretty straightforward. Sales agents interested in what you have, they want to buy it and connect it with a distribution company, whether that be whatever it is. An action movie can work with Millennium Pictures or Magnet Entertainment, and those distribution companies can do the back end work to help get the movie seen by a wider audience, which means like nationwide or worldwide viewers. I think that's kind of how it works.
From my perspective, I would say that making a short film and that short film being fleshed out and turned into a feature is actually pretty rare.
Yes.
It doesn't happen very much because there's so many projects already available, and film, yes, that's a proof of concept, but you still have to write the rest of the script. You still have to do a lot more work to develop the project when you already have other scripts, tons of scripts flying at you with attachments already. So
would you suggest having kind of like a whole press kit, not press kit, like a whole like Bible of everything? So it's like the moment that they're interested, it's like, I have a feature-length script ready, this, and this, and have a whole deck explaining everything?
If you're going to have a chance, that's the only chance.
Got you. So basically, if you have a short film that you want to expand upon, you better have that full feature-length script ready to go.
It has to be a really compelling sell. Like, your film has to be like so good and probably have somebody in it. A name.
That actually brings a good question that I'm curious about. Is when it comes to a sales agent and the producer / filmmaker that helped make this short film or feature film, do they have to pitch you the idea, or do they just hand you a press kit and say, well, this is what my film's about?
No, definitely they're pitching the idea. They're pitching the whole project.
Okay. So you have to hopefully had to take a communication class so you know how to say the right thing to that person so they're interested in buying your film, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with any industry. It's all about the story. Like, can you present it in a way that captures somebody's imagination and makes them think a little bit irrationally? Because if you're being rational about film, then you're probably going to say no to every single one because it doesn't really make sense to invest in movies. So I don't know if I told you this, but do you know what the easiest way to make $1 million in film is?
What?
spend $10 million.
Oh. Okay, so
Yeah.
not impossible.
Yeah, it's tough out there. But in terms of distribution, there are a lot of predatory distributors out there, and they will basically try to get you to give you their film for free if it's a short very often, and they'll say, oh yeah, you'll get a bunch of residuals and we'll put it on all these platforms, hundreds of platforms, and you'll get revenue from each one, and we'll give you monthly reporting statements. But inevitably, like, you're on a whole bunch of platforms, yeah, but nobody is watching, so you're not
Sounds
making
like-
any money, and any money that you're generating, it's getting marked off because they bundle up all of their marketing expenses. So let's say I, as a company, have 100 films, and then I go to a film market to try to sell some of these films or whatever, and I take that cost and I allocate some of it to your film.
Mm-hmm.
So you're technically paying.
What are you saying? Sorry.
Yeah. So you're paying for me to go to a festival, basically.
Okay. Oh wow, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
what especially for short filmmakers, and Filmocracy is all about the short film industry, what would be the best way to approach it outside of just hoping for the best?
The sad truth is, if you can get any sort of name somehow, this will help you like 1 million times more than anything else you can do.
Gotcha.
Even if you made like a flawless masterpiece, if there's nobody in it, most likely nobody will give you the time of day.
Wow, got you.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, those distribution companies that are eventually do get interested in your short film, for the most part, it's in a very schemy kind of way, you would say?
Not in a schemy way. Like, they, as a as a distributor, you feel like you're helping filmmakers. Yeah, you're putting them on all these platforms. It's not my fault that nobody's clicking on your poster.
But I'm doing what I promised.
Yeah. I got you on all these places. You can say that you're on all these places, and like that should be good enough.
Yeah, I think that something that I can relate to was I had a YouTube channel, and I was part of a network. This was around the time that the YouTube network scene was a big thing. So if you were signed on with a network, chances were that you were to get slightly more exposure than doing it solo. Nowadays, everyone kind of just decided to use YouTube AdSense and kind of handle it on their own. Back then, these companies would promise you exposure. Oh, we have 300,000 followers on Twitter. You upload a new video on your YouTube channel, we'll promote it on our YouTube channel, on our YouTube channel and on our social media. In reality, you made a video that you spent probably like 6 months making. They tweet something that gets lost in the millions of other tweets they post that day, and on the YouTube channel, it's a quick shout out at the end of the video during the bumper of the credits of the whole thing. It's a sad reality, and what they benefit out of it is usually those contracts are 70-30, so they get 30% of whatever views you get, so they don't get a loss. And at the same time, if they actually manage to promote you properly, then they get a little bit piece of the pie. So it's an interesting thing that it's like, yes, they were a person of their word and they did what they said, but to what extent did that honestly help you? And I think that's kind of a scary thing to know, that it's not just like YouTube that's doing that people that are breaking the balance, like we spoke about before, doing these short films, have little to no chance almost to even get noticed, unless it's for these like superficial ways of like, oh, I have Nick Cage in my short film, which probably won't. But if you could say, what would be the best thing to do outside of having a name to get out there, if that means networking or just going to events here and there, what would be the best way for a young filmmaker, independent filmmaker, to get noticed or to have a deal with a distribution company.
Yeah, I would say the number one thing after having a name is to make your film a genre film.
Got you.
Horror, the rules don't apply to horror. So if you can like blow somebody away with a horror short, like all bets are off. Like anything can happen because it's such an in demand genre that like
there's a lot of work with such a small budget and get a lot in return from what it seems like. It's what Blumhouse has been essentially. Their foundation is working on $10 to $15 million budgets and like coming back with $300 million returns. It's pretty crazy.
It's almost its own like sub industry within independent film. Like there are companies that focus exclusively on genre distribution, genre sales. Like it's an interesting place to be. I've never personally been much of a horror person, so I don't really know that much more about it. So, but yeah, definitely if you can make a horror film, like it doesn't matter so much what your cast is or what your budget is.
Got you. And for you personally, for the however many people have ever pitched an idea to you, especially since you work with a distribution company, what do you look for in these pitches? What is it as simple as just giving a brief synopsis of it, or what do you look into like that keeps your attention?
I'm going to be very candid here, and I'm going to say that most of the time, there's almost nothing you can say that will make it really stand out to me, because I have heard every pitch, I have read every script, I know every project, and for you, it's like this passionate, incredible story of
Ever
this
seen
young
something like this?
girl overcoming cancer while flying to Mars, and nothing like this has ever been done. But like I just read 3 scripts that have that exact same plot. So really it's about what have they done in the past. If they have shorts, I may look at their shorts to see like how talented they are. If they've made a feature, even if it's a low budget feature, I'll probably look at that to see. But yeah, even like if you're showing a whole bunch of passion, that doesn't really mean much.
It's really interesting, actually, now that I think about it. So essentially, you have this artist pitching an idea or pitching their product to you, and in turn, you essentially have to pitch that project to the distribution company, right? So how do you approach your pitches?
Yeah, this is exactly why I'm not so like blown away by your pitch, because at the end of the day, I have to sell your stuff to somebody else. And so the Japanese buyer, I'm going to be like, it's the story of this young girl who has cancer and creates a rocket for herself and finds a new universe. And then the Japanese buyer is going to be like, okay, who's in it? How much is the budget? Send me the script. That's it. This is how the conversation goes.
Oh, that's so sad to hear.
Because then the Japanese buyer has to go and distribute it in Japan and get the Japanese people to watch this movie. And now he has to convey this amazing story of this American girl with cancer that discovers a universe. And the Japanese people are like, this doesn't make any sense. This would never happen. So
I get what you mean. It's like it's so hard to explain something, especially in a climate where everything's constantly being made. Maybe you stood out back in like the movie Mariachi, where you had something going for yourself, because not a lot of movies were coming out like that. But nowadays, it's like, how many movies am I getting told where a woman has cancer but recovers from it? It's just it's the reality. Jay has a question here where he says, what's your take on navigating distribution in festivals canceled coronavirus landscape?
In the first place, most festivals will not get you distribution. 99% of festivals have no impact on you getting distribution. You can get as many laurels as you want. Nobody cares. unless you have a laurel from Cannes or Toronto, maybe San Sebastian, maybe Venice, but there's just it's too much.
How
None of
often are sales agents at these little festivals that are not the big ones?
never they're never there. The ones that are there are the predatory ones who want to come and like convince you that your film is the greatest thing they've ever seen and they're going to put it on all these platforms.
So what you're saying is, don't expect after showing your film at the Culver City Film Festival for a guy to walk up to you with a business card, write his information, and go, "Call me," and hand you the card.
Well, they may do it, but he's like a scammer.
Got you. So when it comes to film festivals that aren't the top tier ones, what is the purpose of even doing the film festivals if the initial goal is hopefully to get noticed?
If you can do some sort of like guerrilla like audience building campaign and you can prove that to a distributor, this can help. But just like being selected, that doesn't mean much. You have to show like there's something happening here. Maybe there's a movement behind it. It's like about a very zeitgeisty topic or a very like culturally sensitive topic or something, like something more. It can't just have been selected or even won.
You
Like
got
winning
to
the
earn the
conversation.
clout to get noticed.
Yeah.
Got you.
Jay, did you want to say something?
No, it's kind of then it's kind of like you hear people just skipping festivals altogether and then focus on marketing and and focusing on distribution, skipping the festival circuit because it's kind of money down the drain. So like you said, it's a different, the festival scene is so different from what it used to be, I gather, and it's more business, I take it too. Like it's just very transactional, and I've read up on people who are critical of the festival game, and they bring up points like, oh, the filmmakers never get paid, stuff like that, and it's just everything is just backwards, it seems. So, but especially, I mean, now because of coronavirus, everything's turned upside down, whether we like it or not. So,
yeah, I'll be honest. I have 2 films right now for applying for festivals, submitting to festivals. Best believe that I'm paying for that extra protection thing, where it's like if the festival gets canceled, you get your money back, because it's very uncertain right now. It's such a weird time to do festivals.
I mean, I feel like a chump in a way. Like, why? I hear all these stories, and it's like you want to believe that maybe that's the whole thing. It's like the aspirational part of it is like you want to believe deep down inside that you're special. But time and time again, you hear people like if you, unless you know someone inside, whatever festival, you're not gonna be programmed. And yeah,
So you got to talk
Yeah.
to people.
yeah.
Yeah, the festival industry itself has sort of become this big monster where there's just like thousands of festivals. And they serve a purpose. They serve a purpose in building community. They serve a purpose in like exhibiting films that people wouldn't normally watch. But in terms of their power of creating some sort of market opportunity, that is not really there. What they're there to do is to gather people, like promote independent cinema, get people to like hang out and be together and learn more about film and things like that. They are not there to help you get a deal. This is
You're not
just
a distribution company waiting for the next big thing to be there, is what you're saying.
They don't see it as their job. They're just giving you the space. But that said, I mean, as sad as it is to say, is having a laurel better than, for sake of press and building your career? Is that even for maybe not a top tier, but a known festival is better than nothing, would you say?
it depends, I think, on how much energy you're putting into getting those laurels. And definitely laurels are better than no laurels. because there's a whole bunch of films that have like no laurels and they're crap, but there's also a lot of films that have laurels and they're also crap. So it's kind of like it helps me a little bit, but then when somebody is like spamming like 50 laurels on their poster, like then I'm like, this is not
when you
gonna
read
be good.
into it, it's all like the Monkeyfish Award for Best Actor, the chicken winner, the Apple, and you're like, what are these companies? What the heck?
Okay, if there was a Monkeyfish Award, I may pay attention.
Okay,
probably
yeah,
the
I
one.
was doing research and I was like, I have a horror movie that I'm doing for that I'm submitting to festivals, and I was like, oh, I don't know what horror venues like I should look into, and so I would go on YouTube and I would look up for award-winning horror shorts, and I would really read into it, and I would be like, what the hell? What festival is this? And I would click on the Film Freeway like link or look for it, and then it's like, we've been around for 2 years, and you see pictures and it's like people using lawn chairs as like their chairs for the audience, and I'm just like, oh, okay, so it's you're just doing it for the, oh, I have laurels, but it's not like you really like got selected by something like prestigious, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. And again, I would say horror is the outlier here, because horror, like you can go to different horror festivals and sort of like build a following
Yeah,
because it's like a very unique thing. But if it's like a drama or a documentary, like you don't really get followings. Like as a documentary filmmaker, I can't even name one really. That's
it
like
gets
well
lost,
known.
it gets lost in the mess of things.
Niche, even though I'm in it, I feel like I hear about docs all the time, but I forget. They get lost in the sauce of
Yeah.
everything else.
If it's not controversial and it's not something that's changing the game or letting out some dark secrets that no one knew about, chances are you ain't gonna get noticed.
I mean, I guess that's the equivalent of horror genre in documentary, and unfortunately, that really leaves out filmmakers who, or it encourage, not everybody, but it encourages a behavior where you're always reacting to what's going on in the world, and not trying to create something that's unique to yourself, like your own style, but you're always kind of like this. You're just reaching out for whatever's trending, There are a lot of docs that are like that, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is.
So Paul, since we're kind of gearing towards the end of things, I wanted to ask you, and Jay, Luyako, since I know you don't have a webcam, you're welcome to write your answers on the chat. Phil, I wanted to play a little game about pitching, especially for you, Paul, who's dealt with that for so.
Are you gonna give me a pen?
A pen?
Yeah. Sell me this pen.
Oh, kinda. Yeah, actually, yeah. I'm gonna go Wolf of Wall Street on your ass. I want to see. After hearing all these pitches from all types of people, how good of a pitcher are you? We're not talking about baseball here. So first, I want you to tell me what's one of your favorite movies, and essentially, we're gonna have you pitch that. So just choose wisely on the movie you want to pitch.
Oh, Lord of the Rings.
1, 2, or 3?
The first one, Fellowship.
Okay, Fellowship. All right. So I have right here 6 ways of pitching, and I'm going to explain what each way is, and then you're going to have to give me that version pitched to me. So like Lord of the Rings pitched in this way, Lord of the Rings pitched in that way. All right.
Okay.
So we're going to start out with the first one. This one's called the one-word pitch. So it's like basically an example. MasterCard, their thing is priceless. So I want you to tell me a one-word pitch for Lord of the Rings, the first one. You got 10 seconds, by the way.
Epic.
All right.
I only get
Pretty
one
simple.
word, right?
Yeah, it's
Well,
one word. There you go.
Okay.
One word. All right. Number 2. This one's the question pitch. Use this if your argument's strong. All right. So a good example is, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And this was something that Ronald Reagan used. So it's kind of like, like a rhetorical device. You ask me a question, but within that explains the Lord of the Rings movie, makes me want to watch it. So the question pitch. I'll give you a little bit longer. I'll give you 20 seconds.
Okay. Have you ever witnessed a hero's journey from the unlikeliest group of heroes?
Wow, that was really good. I would see that more in the Hobbit movies, but it fits perfectly with Lord of the Rings too. But that was really good. All right, this next one's pretty easy, pretty cool. We'll see how good you are. Number 3 is the rhyming pitch. Pretty self-explanatory. So you have 20 seconds for this one.
But can I do like a whole sentence, or am I just saying like a...
Yeah, you can do a sentence, of course. Yeah. There's no limit to this one. You can keep it short, sweet, to the point, whatever you want.
There were hobbits from the Shire traveling to destroy a ring that was forged in fire.
Okay. That was perfect. That was great.
For those of you watching, this was not rehearsed at all.
No.
Surprise to me.
That's why I'm like giving you props, because I warned you I was going to play the game, but I didn't say what it was. The fact that you gave me that one off the top, very impressive. Number 4, the subject line pitch. So imagine you're sending someone an email, and the subject line, that's the thing that grabs people's attention. Whether it be like, need help now, 4 exclamation marks, whatever it is. What would you have it be for Lord of the Rings?
Epic fantasy quest. Click here for nudes.
I don't know if I want to see Boromir like that, but sure, why not? And the last,
we're trying to get open for this email, right?
Yeah, for sure, I got it. At least you didn't choose King in Africa needs help from distant cousin or something. So
it's a different version.
Yeah. This one is the last one, number 6. It's called the Pixar Pitch. And essentially this one has a template, and you just have to fill in the blanks, right? So an example would be, once upon a time, people depended completely on paper. Every day, piles of paper grew. One day, 2 California guys developed a user-friendly computer. Because of that, people's lives changed. Because of that, ideas and commerce flowed electronically until finally Apple became one of the country's largest companies. This is not endorsed by Apple, by the way. This is just an example. So basically, it's kind of like ad libs, the little books that people would play when they were kids. So I'll give you the sentence, and you have to fill in the blank, and it has to revolve around Lord of the Rings. All right.
Okay.
So here's the fairy tale. Once upon a time,
people lived in harmony.
And every day,
they would prance around the world.
But one day,
the forces of evil created a weapon.
And because of that,
the world fell into darkness.
And because of that,
the races of the world came together.
Until finally,
the ring was thrown into hot lava.
Give me a final one, Will.
And light returned to Middle Earth.
There you go. That was the last one. You did phenomenal. That was literally amazing. I wanted to hear Middle Earth being saved, and you gave it to me. So yeah, you're a pretty good pitcher, man. You're a man of your word.
Do I get 1 million bonus points
Yes.
that are not redeemable anywhere?
Exactly.
Yes.
No, that was great. That was very impressive.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this edition of Filmocracy Talks. I hope you all had as much fun as Jose and I had and learned as much as we did. Remember to join us every 2 weeks as we discuss topics that you all care about the most. And by all means, if anyone has a particular topic you want to discuss, you can shoot Jose an email. His email is jose@filmocracy.com, and we'll leave that in the side chat. And good night, everyone.
What is Filmocracy? Filmocracy is a streaming community where users earn cash and prizes for watching and rating movies. Pretty good, huh? Just go to filmocracy.com today and start watching independent films for free.